Hello everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Here for the Craic with me, Emma Neill. I hope you're all doing good. So you will know if you listened to last week's episode on face dysmorphia and perception drift and the cost of beauty trends, that this week's episode is going to be part 2 of that. Now, I do have to say, admittedly, I completely fucked up in the splitting of the episodes. Oh god, so basically I thought I had loads of footage. Well, I did have loads of footage, but what I failed to take into account was the fact that I tend to dissociate a lot when I am recording the podcast, and I will stare at a brick wall for a while and forget what I'm doing, and then also just have brain blanks and everything. So, you know, half of the footage wasn't usable. So yeah, we're left with a way shorter part 2 than I had anticipated. My bad. Should have preempted it, should have, pre-edited the whole thing. Yeah, basically we just should have cut the previous episode 20 minutes before we actually did. But you're still going to get the second part of that. Just as I said, it will be a little bit shorter than anticipated. I'm going to give you a bit of a life update though. I feel like so much has happened in the last week. It's been a bit of a weird week. So yeah, let's get into all of that before we do part 2 of the episode. You know what? I'll give you a book update to start with. I've been really on my reading buzz at the moment. I'm just really obsessed with it at the minute, not me always going through my little hyperfixations. Although I feel like reading is definitely a nice constant in my life, but there definitely are times where it's more of a forcing myself to and really trying to get through books. But I guess that's when you're not really into a book. But I feel like right now I'm just really in my reading era. Maybe it's something to do as well with being sober. I just have more time to read, and I guess I'm in a better routine with sleeping and everything, so I have more time in the evenings. It's just really been helping me get to sleep and wind down and all of that, and yeah, reading just brings me so much joy, and I just love reading things as well where I feel like I'm learning. So I did just finish The Housemaid, which was August's book club book. So if you're in my book club, by the way, to join my book club, just go on my Instagram. There's a broadcast channel called Emma's Book Club, and I just announce the books there on a monthly basis. So yeah, The Housemaid was this month's book. It was recommended by quite a few people. It's a psychological thriller, and I had kind of said I wanted August's book to be a psychological thriller because we hadn't read one of them yet for the book club. So based off of other people's recommendations, I went for that one. And now, I will say I'm a little bit disappointed. The actual book, the actual story and the plot is quite good, and I'm not denying that, and it very much is a page turner. It's a very easy read. I probably finished it in just 4 evenings before bed, just lying in bed reading for an hour each time or whatever, and I got it finished very quickly. So I'm not for 1 second saying it's not a good book in that sense. I think if you're going through a bit of a reading slump, or maybe you're on holiday and you just want something that is so easy to fly through, I think it's probably good for that. However, in the same breath, I just found it very childish, and to the point that I was really kind of cringing at the way it was written. It was just very young adulty. It was oh god, I'm just cringing thinking about it, because it would just be that really cliche, and then ... Do you know what I mean? It was just giving something I would have come up with, not the plot, but the way it was written was giving how I would have written in creative writing when I was 14 years old. And look, I think if I had have read the book when I was aged 12 to 16, I probably would have absolutely loved it. I would have lapped that shit up. But, I'm not 16, I'm 26, and the whole thing just felt very cringy. I will not be reading the second and third book of the trilogy. I've also heard that the second and third book are not as good as the first one anyway, so I hate when they do that, when they take a book and make it into a trilogy and you're just there was absolutely no need. Yeah, we're going to leave it there on the Housemaid front. I don't want to put any of you off reading it if you are reading it for the book club. And yeah, it's one of those weird ones where because of the way it's written, it does make it an easy read, but then at the same time, that's what made me not like it. So yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with it. Anyway, what else have I finished recently? I finished an audiobook called Sociopath, which was so good. Someone recommended it to me on Instagram after I posted about loving Fern Brady's strong female character. I think I spoke about that as one of my recommendations on a previous episode. But yeah, basically I finished Fern Brady's strong female character, which was so good. And it was told from the perspective of her as an autistic woman and her late diagnosis and stuff. And someone replied and was like, if you love this, you should listen to Sociopath. It's very similar, like self-narrated memoir told from the perspective of a sociopathic woman, which isn't a perspective we hear from a lot. Do you know what I mean? First of all, you don't really hear from sociopaths that isn't like against their will because they're a criminal. Do you know what I mean? In like a documentary or something. You don't hear people speak about it openly that are just like dealing with it and trying to, you know, live a normal life and not give in to these maybe more destructive tendencies. And we have such negative connotations with sociopathy. So I feel like people that are sociopaths don't necessarily want to talk about it openly and don't want to tell people that they have been diagnosed with that. So yeah, I just thought it was a very, very interesting book. Like the recommendation was very accurate from that girl. As she said, like if you liked strong female character, you'll definitely like this. So yeah, if you took my recommendation before and loved strong female character, definitely listen to Sociopath as well. Now, it wasn't quite as easy a listen because the author is American. So I just generally find American voices a little bit harder to follow when it comes to audiobooks, whereas like Fern Brady's Scottish. So yeah, and her humour and stuff kind of kept you in, but that's not to say that it was a difficult listen at all. So yeah, that was a great read. Well, not read, listen, but same thing. I'm now reading a book called Girlhood. That's my non-fiction at the moment, and I'm also reading a fiction book called Really Good, actually, which when I posted it on my story the other day, I got so many responses of people being like, I hated this, and I was like, guys, can you all shut the fuck up? Like, I literally just started it, stopped trying to put me off it straight away. So I'm trying not to listen to anyone's input or in that sense until I've actually made my mind up, because I hate when people get in your head about it and you're like, wait, I was actually kind of enjoying it, which I am actually kind of enjoying it. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes. I'll give you an update on it once I'm further into it, but I mean, I think it seems good so far. I think my next audiobook is going to be, what do you call him? Matthew McConaughey's book called Green Lights, is it? I feel like that's been really highly recommended by a lot of people, and I'm just really into my self-narrated memoir audiobooks at the moment. So I think that's going to be my next one, but I want to give it a little bit of time till I listen to that, because I need to catch up on my podcasts and stuff, do you know? Like, I don't want to just go straight into another audiobook after my last one. Oh my god, guys, I started watching I Kissed a Girl and I'm loving it so far. Like, I just think the dynamic of having all lesbians is so much more fun than the likes of Love Island. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something about the way they all get on as friends, but then the way they're also flirting with each other is like so fun. And like when one couple decide to call it off and then they just like are wingmanning them, like you just wouldn't see that with a straight couple. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm really liking that. It's only 10 episodes, which is quite good. But then at the same time, I'm like, oh, but I want it to be longer, because I feel like we're not like developing and like going on a journey with those relationships as much as we should be. But then at the same time, like I think, for example, I think Love Island is way too dragged out and way too many episodes. So maybe it's good they kept it short, but I think they definitely could have done maybe like, I don't know, even 14 to 18 kind of episodes would have been really fun. I also know one of the girls on it, and she may just be making an appearance in the podcast in the near future. But I'm not going to drop any hints at who that might be. Actually, I feel like it's very obvious. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to do any spoilers, so we'll move on. I'll do a little house update actually, because I feel like I've been trying to make some moves in the house. Well, actually, yeah, very much just trying, because everything's just so long and so expensive. But anyway, what have I done? So, okay, I got new wallpaper installed in my downstairs toilet. It's just like a wee dinky under the stairs toilet. Very tiny, the teeniest sink you've ever seen in your entire life. You can barely fit your hands in it. It's actually maybe a little bit of a problem. But you know what I mean? Like one of those really tiny under the stairs toilet where you can't manspread on the toilet because your knees would literally be touching the walls kind of vibe. And I just thought, if you can't go super funky in a little tiny downstairs toilet, then where are you going to do it? So I kind of knew from when I moved in that I wanted to make that a really funky space. And now I was not going to go all out and buy like, because see, to get proper tiles and stuff and like retile and redo a bathroom with like new sink and new toilet and all that shit, like it would literally cost an arm and a leg. So I just knew I was going to do a really funky wallpaper, and it took me so long to find the wallpaper of choice. Because you know what it's like with anything that's like patterned, that's so hard to find something that's exactly what you want. And so honestly, I've been scouring the internet for the last 6 months for a wallpaper that I liked, and I kind of had like an idea of what I wanted it to be. And when I say an idea, I don't mean like I had an exact design in my head. I just mean I knew the vibes that I wanted. I knew what I wanted to emulate, you know? And part of that was always that I wanted it to be something to do with fish. And whether that be like a cool kind of koi fish pattern or something with like octopus. I didn't really know. I just kind of saw in my head that something would be under the sea vibes, you know? And so about a month ago, I found the wallpaper. I finally got someone to install it a few days ago. And oh my God, it looks so fucking good. It's fully like under the sea themed. There's like loads of fish, manta rays, lobster, shrimp. It's the coolest fucking wallpaper ever. Now, don't get me wrong. I know it's not to everyone's cup of tea. Like, I know that the pictures in my bathroom was probably being sent to friends being like, this is a shocker. And that's so fine. Like, it's not going to be to everyone's taste, but I am so obsessed with it. It has transformed the room. I literally just keep like staring at it. Like I just keep opening the door and staring at it, or like anytime I walk past it, I'm just like so chuffed about it. And the guy that put up the wallpaper also painted the windowsill, and there's like a panel under the sink. So he painted it like a nice light green that ties in with the wallpaper, and yeah, it's just like so stunning. I'm actually obsessed with it. I did originally have plans to change all the like hardware in the bathroom. Or wait, no, that's the wrong word. The metalware? Anything that's metal in that toilet, I had originally planned on changing. So, you know, like your toilet roll holder that's attached to the wall, or the little ring that you put your hand towel on, or even like the tap at the sink, or the flusher on the toilet. Basically anything that was metal. It's silver. It was silver when I moved into the house, and I wanted to change it to be like a nice either brushed gold or brass to kind of make it look a little bit more antique-y, because I think those colours go better, like a gold or brass goes better with a funky wallpaper. Obviously it depends on the colours, but yeah, that was the original plan. But now I'm just like, could you be arsed? Do you know what I mean? Like, those things are there, they're working, they're functional. Are they that offensive at the end of the day? Probably not. So are they high up on the list of priorities for the house? Probably not. I imagine that'll stay that way for the rest of time. But yeah, I'm very chuffed with my new little toilet. And what else have I done? Oh, I've been on a mission to try and get built-in wardrobes, right, in one of my rooms. And oh my God, okay, so the space, it's got like a chimney breast in the middle thing, so you actually can't do like the IKEA pack system, because loads of people have recommended the IKEA pack system, and unfortunately I can't go down that route because it's probably the best value for money, but that's not an option for me. So I've been looking at loads of other places. Don't get me wrong, I knew that any woodwork, like custom built furniture, storage, wardrobe, anything would be expensive, but oh my God, I didn't realize quite how so expensive it would be. And I'm really starting to think like I might have to rethink this. I don't know, like it is such a dream of mine to have a big proper, you know, built-in wardrobe where I can fit absolutely everything, from all my jewelry to all my sunglasses and all my shoes stacked up, say, in shelves, and bags and everything, and then like have like long hanging for your coats and have short hanging, and also drawers. I feel like that's just every girl's dream. Do you know what I mean? To have that and to just open it and be like, ah. Just feels so organized in the space. But yeah, I think we're gonna have to rethink that. I guess my cat kind of falls into the house update, does it? God, I haven't spoken about her in a long time because I've been avoiding the topic. Because someone else is feeding her. A neighbour is feeding her. The only thing that lets me sleep at night is the fact that I know she's safe. I know she's being fed. She's not in danger. I fucking wish I knew who it was so I could either knock on their door or ring them up and be like, it's not your fucking cat, stop feeding her. Like, it's so cheeky. There's so many cats that come into my garden and I could just start feeding them and try and steal them. But I don't. Like, I don't understand these people that do this. And cats have a mind of their own. And if they decide, like, that they just want to start going into one house more often, they will. And it's happened with her before when we were in my parents' house. It happened with our previous cat until my neighbours would always just find her sleeping in their bed. And I think one of them was allergic to cats, so they would like freak out every time. Like, cats literally have a mind of their own, and they didn't even let it into their house. So that was her just like climbing through the windows. This isn't my cat now, by the way. This is the previous cat. And that same cat then also ended up like fully just being owned by someone else. And they came and knocked on our door one time and they were like, by the way, we just want to let you know that she lives with us now. And we were like, what do you mean she just lives? Like, I'm happy to know she's safe and you're looking after her, but also, what are you doing? Like, the audacity. I just cannot wrap my head around it. Do they know that you're sitting there like upset and crying about the fact that your cat's not living with you anymore? No, honestly, I think it's so rude. So yeah, she appears every now and then. Let's say once every 3 weeks, she'll show up and be like, hey bitch, I'm still here, remember me? Oh, and I give her so much love and care, so many pets, so much wet food, so many treats. I treat her like a fucking princess. And then she just meows to leave again. And look, so many people are like I mentioned this on a TikTok recently, and like a few of the comments were saying, don't let her leave. And I was like, no, I'm just not that way inclined. Now look, I get why people have house cats. I get when it makes sense, like in London or certain breeds of cats. I do get why people have house cats. However, this cat has never, ever been a house cat. She is the most outdoorsy cat you could ever imagine. As in, like, has always spent nights away, but not necessarily in other people's houses, but do you know what I mean? Has always just like gone out for 3 days and not come back for a while. Or like, she's the type of cat where you could go on like a weekend trip and not have to worry about, like, you would just tell your neighbour to feed it kind of thing. You wouldn't have to worry about her coming in at night. Like, she's a very outdoors cat. She's always been like, that's always how my family have had cats, do you know? Like, even the cat before her, they've always been outdoorsy cats. And I just think to then, after all those years of that, to lock her in the house, she'd be absolutely demented. So that's not an option for me. I did buy a collar on Amazon that says, please do not feed me. I also want to get a little charm for it to be like, call me if you see this kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, owner Emma with my number on it. So I might actually go and get one of those engraved and put it on the collar, and then the next time she comes back I can attach that to her. But see, to be honest, she won't keep it on. She's never kept a collar on in her entire life. You put it on and 2 seconds later she's found a way out of it. So I also can't really force that upon her, you know? So yeah, at this point I'm just like, do I get another cat? I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Just being visited once every 3 weeks for an evening and then for her to fuck off again. I don't know. I'm going to see when she next comes back and see how long she stays for. But if it happens again, where it's just like a fleeting visit where she goes away for another 4 weeks, I think it might be time to start thinking about getting a new cat. Yeah, I've really been considering it, which sounds so horrible. It sounds like I've moved on so quick, but like, I actually haven't. I've been distraught by the whole thing, but also she's moved on so quick, the little bastard. That's awful. Okay, let's do pit and peak of the week. Pit of the week. It's, you know what? It's been a weird week. I feel like everyone's been feeling that. Our country's in fucking shambles. The riots and the attacks and everything going on is just so insane. Like, when I think about it, I get so upset to think that that's happening. And yeah, like, everything just feels very heavy. I'm sure everyone else is feeling that. And, you know, if I'm this upset when I think about it and I feel this heavy, like, I honestly cannot even imagine how people of colour feel right now just leaving the house. Not even just leaving the house would be so scary. Even when you're in your house, just like being so aware of what's going on and how people are acting and thinking towards people who look like you, and like, it's so fucked up, honestly. I do want to do an episode talking about it a little bit more, maybe talking a little bit about British colonialism, and I really do worry in the sense that I'm like, what is the long-term solution here? Because, yes, okay, by next week or even by this week, I'm not 100% sure if it's still going on. I think it was more a last week thing. But anyway, you know, it could stop next week. But that's not changing the fact that these people are still harbouring these views and this animosity towards immigrants. And that's not something that changes overnight. And so I really just think like the government and the education system need to step up big time, because this is as a result of years upon years of the government, the politicians, the British media, all pitting people against immigrants. From the language they use to refer to them in news articles, to the imagery that they use. It's such a deep-rooted issue, and so I just do really think there's so much that needs to be done in order to actually like move forward with this, and not just like move forward in a way that's just like, oh, the rioting's done now, like we don't need to worry about it. No, we still very much do need to worry about it, because that's just waiting to erupt again if we don't actually get to the root of the problem and educate people on this and like actually hold politicians and the British media accountable. So yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone can agree it's been a heavy week, and I hope that no one listening to this podcast or no one that follows me is a part of those riots and those attacks. And if you are, please remove yourself from my community. I want nothing to do with you. I hope everyone that listens to this episode is showing up to the protests where they're from to show solidarity with people of colour and with immigrants in our country, and to just make noise on our side, because unfortunately the noise that the far right make is so much louder because of their aggression and their violence and their hatefulness. Yeah, it makes what they do very loud, so we need to show up in numbers to counteract that and to show solidarity. Yeah, so that's Pit of the Week. I'm sure that's Pit of the Week for everyone. Peak of the Week is just going to be my new wallpaper, because I just can't take my eyes off it. And my recommendation of the week, I do actually have quite a few. So I'm going to give you a few non-alcoholic, like 0% alcohol recommendations, because as you know, I've been doing like my little sober stint at the moment, and as a result of that, I've been trying lots of different alcohol-free options. So my first one is a wine from a brand called Hollow Leg. It is their sparkling Albarino. Honestly, I think it's the closest non-alcoholic wine I've tasted to tasting like normal wine. The brand Hollow Leg, I'm not actually 100% sure, are they an alcohol-free brand or do they do normal wines and this is like one of their 0%? I can't remember for the life of me. I have a feeling they're an alcohol-free one, but I could be wrong. It was actually a gift from guests I had on the podcast, which that episode will be coming out next week. But yeah, it's a gorgeous bottle of wine. I honestly felt like I was drinking a normal wine whilst drinking it. So yeah, definitely check them out on Instagram and see where they're stocked. You might even be able to order it online. And then I also tried Amy's new 0% rosé. Amy is like that rosé brand that are really well known for their really like nice pale rosé. They've got the logo that's kind of like the sketch of the faces. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about. And they have like a wine bar in London as well. So they've just brought out a new 0% sparkling rosé, which was gorgeous. I also tried San Miguel 0% beer at the weekend. I've tried a lot of 0% beers and I know which ones I like and which ones I think are shit. So I tend to go for the ones I already know instead of like trying new ones. But I was in the shop and they had a load of different ones and I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to try something different here. I'll wing it. So I got the San Miguel's and I was really impressed with them. I thought they were really good. They're definitely up there with one of my favourite non-alcoholic beers. So yeah, I just thought that might be useful for anyone that is on a little sober stint, is maybe pregnant, trying to get pregnant, or just wants a good alcohol-free alternative for like during the week or a night they're not drinking and have to get up early the next morning or whatever. I think it's always good to kind of have them on the back burner, you know what your faves or what your go-tos are for those scenarios. I'm also obsessed at the moment with the I'm Grand Mom podcast. Please, if you don't know, get to know. Like, I've always been a big fan of this podcast, but I'm like a religious fan now of it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like listening obsessively now. But yeah, I'm Grandmam is two guys from Cork and they are just the funniest duo in the entire world. I'm obsessed with them. I love them individually, and I love their dynamic as a duo, and I would love to go and see one of their live shows. I'm gonna try and do that because I think they have a couple of live shows in London, so yeah, I'd love to go see them live. They're just absolutely hilarious. Oh, and I'm also obsessed with coconut water at the moment. I've got a little glass of coconut water I'm currently sipping on. The trick is to coconut water, because so many people say they don't like it. You need to have it so iced. It needs to be half ice, half coconut water, because when you have a really nice iced coconut water, you literally feel your insides be like hydrated and refreshed. I don't know how to describe it. If you're ever hungover, oh my god, a big fat glass of iced coconut water will actually nurse you back into good health. I swear by it. I think it's the best shit ever. If you ever travel anywhere that you can get like coconut water quite easily as well, like in Southeast Asia, or I'm sure South America and stuff as well, basically anywhere kind of exotic where you can buy like coconuts on the side of the street and just drink the coconut water straight from them, it is the best experience in the entire world. And then like scooping out the coconut flesh or the coconut meat or whatever on the inside, oh, it is so delicious. I miss it so much, but this is like the closest thing I have to it. Also, sorry, the price of coconut water in Tesco's is absolutely insane. Do not buy your coconut water from Tesco. Get it from Lidl. Or sometimes it's on sale in Tesco. When it's on sale in Tesco, it's okay. But if it's not on sale and it's going to cost you like £6, not worth it. Go to Lidl. I'm obsessed with Lidl at the moment. That's another recommendation. Lidl is so elite. It's so much cheaper than every supermarket. Their vegan burgers are unreal. Their orange juice is unreal. Their olives are amazing. Oh my god, they sell that Spanish brand that do the really good like glass jars of chickpeas. I'm a real Lidl fanatic at the moment. I swear by it. Up until recently, I've been doing my shops in Tesco's, and then the other day I went to Lidl and I was like, why have I been depriving myself of this? So now I'm a Lidl gal, in case anyone was... wondering. Okay, on that note, I think it's about time we get into this week's podcast. It is part 2 of face dysmorphia and perception drift, the cost of beauty trends. I hope you guys enjoy. When I was younger, I hated my nose so much. I hated it so much. I fixated on it so much. Every time I looked in the mirror, it was all I saw. Every time I looked at photos of myself, it was all I saw. I literally, from the age of 14, said the second I have enough money in my bank account to get a nose job, I'm doing it. No questions about it. I'm now 26 and I literally could not give less of a fuck about getting a nose job or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not on my radar. And that's a very good example of like someone who's very much like fixating on something and letting those thoughts take over your brain and fully catastrophizing something that actually wasn't that deep. But I was so obsessed with it. And we have what's called cognitive biases in our brain, right? If we want to believe something, basically, and you want to like feed into that, then you'll naturally look for things that confirm that. So this happens in like multiple different ways in our life, but the way in which this happens in terms of like your image of yourself and like thinking negatively of yourself. So for example, with the nose thing for me, at that time in my life, because I was so obsessed with this idea that I hated my nose and I hated everything about it, and I was getting a nose job and, you know, it was the worst thing in the world and the worst feature on my face and blah blah blah, right? Because I was so obsessed with that, my cognitive bias was towards like hating my nose. So if I saw a picture, let's say, where, you know, sometimes you just do have pictures taken of you where your nose looks bad, and even people that don't hate their nose will have that, but they won't like obsess over it. But at the time, because I was obsessed with it, if I happened to see myself from an angle where I was like, oh my god, see, my nose is awful, it looks so bad on my face, I would see all these things maybe every now and again that would just like confirm this bias in my head that it was the worst thing ever. And that's what happens when you feed into these negative thoughts and fixate on a certain thing about your face or your body. You will look for things constantly to confirm that. You'll look for the photo where that looks bad. You'll look for the angle in the mirror or the piece of clothing in your wardrobe that accentuates that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could fixate on anything about my body that I don't particularly love or I'm obsessed with or that doesn't fit the beauty standard. I could fixate on my hip dips and end up in a spiral about them and always notice them in every photo and always be looking for them when I try clothes on, or just like really hone in on it, and therefore give it way too much airtime in my brain to spiral about and to catastrophize. But you're literally just enabling that to like form as a solid concept in your brain. Does that make sense? You're letting that have the power to like basically form a whole insecurity that you're obsessed with. And that's why you really have to consciously opt out of obsessing over these things. And it's so much easier said than done. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that like you just have to do this and just like that it'll go away. I know it's not that simple. However, you do have to actively choose to not feed into these thoughts, because when you start feeding into them and you start getting worked up about them and fixated on them, all you're doing is allowing your brain to become so absorbed about this thing and so like deep into this insecurity that it's going to make you so unhappy, and you're never going to feel like content until you change that. I thought I will never be happy in myself until I get a nose job. That's not true. I had to consciously opt out of feeling that way towards my nose. And I'm not saying you have to love these things about yourself. In no way am I telling you that you all of a sudden have to like become obsessed with these features and wholeheartedly love these features of yourself that you're maybe a bit insecure about. That's very unrealistic. However, you definitely have to come to a more neutral standpoint on them, where you just don't give those thoughts any airtime. And a way that I find it really helpful, right? So say you have, I'm going to use the nose example for me for this, but you can obviously apply this to any insecurity of any like body part or facial feature or whatever it might be, right? So we have this like very one-dimensional, very much like one picture of what the beauty standard is. But in actual fact, there's not just like one look that is beautiful. There's so much beauty in individuality, and we don't need to think of beauty as just being this very specific kind of one look or one type of face. There's so many different, features and faces and looks that are all beautiful. And so for me, I find what really helps is, let's say, finding someone that has a similar nose to me that I think is really beautiful and that I've never thought once in my life, oh my god, look at her nose. And sorry, I know I just keep saying about the nose thing. Sophie Habu, for example, right? Gorgeous, stunning human being. Like, such a gorgeous girl. And she has quite a similar nose to me. Sorry, she doesn't actually have the same nose as me. That is such a reach. I can't believe I just said that. But what I actually mean is that she doesn't have that nose job nose that so many people are after, or that like, cute little button, tiny nose that so many people either get surgery for or use Facetune or FaceApp or something to make their nose look like, or try and like contour their nose to make it look like that and stuff. Like, she doesn't have that nose, but she has a nose and she's fucking gorgeous. And it's never once crossed my mind that her nose isn't nice, or that her nose doesn't suit her face, or that her nose doesn't fit that like beauty standard that we have in that nose job nose. And so that is just like confirmation in my head that actually this is all just in my head, because there is an example of someone who doesn't have that nose, that it's never crossed my mind that they're not gorgeous because of this, or it's never even come into my head that her nose isn't nice. I think she has a lovely nose. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like proving to yourself that there's different variations of beauty. Like, not everyone has to look the same. Not everyone has to have these same features. We shouldn't all be striving to have the exact same face. Where is the fun in that? Where is the individuality? Do you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes I think actively go out and search for people with these things that you still think are gorgeous, to confirm to yourself, okay, do you know what? Actually, that is all in my head and I am fixating on something. And when I take a step back and look at the bigger picture, that's just part of me. That's who I am, and I'm willing to accept that. And okay, I might not love it, but that doesn't mean I have to be so hyper fixated on changing it. And look, I also want to make it clear, I'm really not demonizing getting any of these procedures done, like getting filler, getting surgery or anything like that. I'm not demonizing it at all. I'm speaking openly about the fact that I have had filler, and I'm not gonna lie, if tomorrow my lips were to fully go down to what they originally were when I was 18, would I get lip filler again? I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's just like one of those things, when it comes to it, when my lips have fully gone down, I'll make a decision from there. I'm not saying never again, but I just think it's so important to take these trends with a pinch of salt. That is like honestly just so much easier said than done, because these trends are pushed so much into our face. Like they are really shoved into our face in every form of media and every advertisement, and you know, everything we see everywhere. This beauty standard is forced onto us, and so it's not simple being able to take these trends as a pinch of salt. It really isn't. But you have to come to a place where you feel a lot more neutral about yourself, where you're not so vulnerable to become victim to these trends and to then end up having lip blindness, or to end up completely having perception drift and completely losing sight of who you are and what you look like, and yeah, your perception of yourself just like completely going out the window. Because when you're really feeding into the negative self-talk and you're giving all those thoughts airtime in your brain, you're so vulnerable to these trends, because you're looking for ways that you can alter your face and think that that will make you feel better about yourself, when actually once you do that, you'll only start looking for the next thing, or you'll, you know, get fixated on that and want more and more and more of that. I actually have so much more to talk about on this topic. Like, you should see, I've got my phone out here of all my notes on this, and I honestly haven't even scratched the surface. So I'll probably do like a second part to this episode in the near future, because I really want to talk about the whole like AI filter side of things, and I want to talk about the like photoshopping and face tuning side of things, and about how, you know, people are wanting celebrities to be transparent about these things and whether that actually makes a difference. Yeah, I feel like there's a whole other episode to come on this topic. Let me know if that's something you guys want to hear. I was doing a few things on my laptop last night, and in the background I decided to stick on Taylor Swift's Miss Americana movie on Netflix. I only had it on for about half an hour, but literally as I was about to turn it off, she was discussing like her issues that she's had with her body, and something she said I wrote down on my phone, because it was just like I'd spent the whole evening planning this podcast and writing all these things, and it was just like so coincidental that she said this. So I wrote down this quote, and basically she said, there's always some standard of beauty that you're not meeting. So for example, if you're trying to like fit the super skinny trend, well then you're not going to have the ass. If you're going for the big lip trend, then you might not have this like natural model off duty kind of beauty standard. Do you know what I mean? There will always, no matter what is trending, there will always be a beauty standard that you're not fitting. And so there's always opportunity to fixate on that. And as I said, if you're in a vulnerable enough place, if you don't think highly of yourself, if you don't back yourself, if you don't try and take a more neutral stance towards your body and your face, you're gonna be so vulnerable to these trends and these beauty standards, and always want to do something about it, and you'll treat yourself as like this ongoing project that you need to fix. And you have to realize, like, we're not celebrities. We don't have all that money to constantly, you know, be spending on ourselves, and then when 1 second it's not trending anymore, to be able to pay to get rid of that thing, or to dissolve it, or to, you know, undo it in surgery. It's in celebrities' best interest to do all these things, because, you know, for them beauty is like currency. But we're not celebrities, and we don't have to buy into that. You know, again, I'm not demonizing these things in any way, shape or form, but sometimes you really have to question where these insecurities or these thoughts of like wanting to do these things are coming from. And you just have to be a little bit more savvy, you know? As in, like, we've become more savvy when it comes to like being consumers. We shop around, we don't necessarily believe ads straight away. We look deeper into them, we do our own research, and sometimes we have to do that, but like for our brains, you know, we have to unpick where these like thoughts are coming from, and where these wants to like change certain things about ourselves are coming from. Because, you know, at the end of the day, if you've had like a really deep rooted security for the majority of your life, and you think that getting this one thing done will actually be like such an amazing thing for you, and will just like rid you of this underlying like feeling that you always have about this one thing, and you know that's the way forward for you, I so back that. I'm so here for that. Even having the like possibility of being able to do that is so good, and to be able to change that and like rid yourself of that. But like a lot of the time we just have these fleeting insecurities because of these trends. And that's what you have to be so careful about, because, you know, if you fall prey to that and you do end up succumbing to it and going down such a permanent route, it's not always an easy correction, or it's not always easy to go back on. And you need to do these things for the right reasons. You need to do it for you and you only, and not because something's trending on TikTok that's telling you that you have to look a certain way, or a certain celebrity, you know, might have had the same thing that you have, and now because they changed it, you think that you should do that as well. You have to unpick where these things are coming from, and I guess just come to, a much more like neutral stance on yourself and your body, instead of like nitpicking all these little things. Because if you want to nitpick, you could do it for fucking ever. You could spend the rest of your life, the rest of eternity, nitpicking and finding new things to obsess over. But yeah, I think we will leave it there for this week's episode. Let me know if you enjoyed the video version and if it's something you want me to keep up. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, give me a little 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it on your Instagram stories. I love seeing all your Instagram stories of where you're watching the podcast. It honestly makes my week. So keep sharing them. Oh guys, actually, I've been nominated. I've been shortlisted for Podcast of the Year with the Be Creator Awards, which is absolutely wild to me. Like, I'm up there with some big names, which is so insane, and I literally could not believe it. So thank you all so much for even making that possible. I will include the link to where you can vote for me in the podcast description. I'll also probably keep sharing it on my Instagram story. So yeah, please vote for me on that. And if you have multiple emails, you can vote for me multiple times. But yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for your continued love and support on the podcast. It means the absolute world to me. I hope you have a gorgeous week, and I will speak to you in next week's episode. Bye!